Welcome to the Daily Shift. You heard that right. The Daily Shift. The show where we block out the noise and speak truth, train your mind, and help you become the absolute best version of yourself. Leo and Andrew are on their way. You're in the right place. And while you're here, take a breath. We're about to dive in. The show starts in 30 seconds. You ready? Take a deep breath in and breathe it out. Prepare for your shift.
We are on. Andrew's not here. There he is. Today, we are talking about, actually, we're not even, we are talking, but we are doing a circle audit. You're going to audit your environment, the people that are around you, the energy drainers. We're going to whack them, and we're going to bring more good people into your life. This is a section of Truca OS, which is a platform that we are building out and have been building out for quite some time. And we just wanted to show a little bit of it today so you guys can get that type of transformation that we want for everyone in Truca OS and, of course, for you guys here.
So is today going to be one of them uncomfortable topics?
It's not that uncomfortable. You know, it's just simply who is around you and the fact that your circle is your ceiling. The people that around you will either pull you to your future self, the person that you want to become, or it will pull you right back to the old self that you've been.
That's such a powerful thing. And as we go through today, you're going to start thinking of people, and we're going to name certain kinds of people. We're going to talk about those who lift you up and those people who you want in your circle, and you're going to think of certain ones. We're going to talk about those middle kind of people. We're going to talk about the kind of people that I used to have in my life that would drag you down and constantly keep you from what you are meant to be. And when we talk about these different categories of people, every time we say some, you're going to have some names pop in your mind.
Yes.
And by the end of today's shift, you're going to notice a big shift. And you're going to wait a second. This makes perfect sense of how to level up my life and my finances and my mind by leveling up my circle around me. So I'm excited to dig into this together because this has been a game changer for both of us.
So Andrew's going to discuss a couple things that he has on his mind from his story, but we have a plan for you guys. So make sure you have a pen and paper out ready to go. And this is just going to be my bit of an experiment. So anything you have to add on, just add on. But we have the 5 topics to go through and a slide to show as well.
Amazing.
So number 1 is audit your circle. Type in the chat, audit your circle, write it down. So this is understanding who is currently around you and whether they fall into one of 3 categories. Whether they are someone that uplifts you, that energizes you, that believes in you and challenges you, or if it's someone who's neutral. This might be someone in your life, maybe a new friend that you don't know whether they energize you yet. They haven't yet. Or it's someone that every now and then you talk to and they're pretty inconsistent, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Or is it in the red zone, and we'll explain the colors in a second, or are they in the red zone, which is someone who triggers your old self, someone who drains your energy, and someone who holds you back. So we're going to do an audit together here in just a moment. But Andrew, from those 3 circles, I know you just saw it up here. I'll show it to you so you see it. Misaligned, neutral, and future aligned. What goes through your mind with these 3?
The first thing that goes through my mind is my old life, where I had the majority who were actually misaligned. Why were they misaligned? Because they were aligned in the old season. The Andrew who was negative, the Andrew who was broke, the Andrew who was mentally downward. But when Andrew became the person he was called to be at the next level, next season, it was misaligned. And so nothing against them, right? It's just the fact it was no longer aligned. I think of the future line, the people that we desire to be around. And I think that is such a gift that really, as we step into new levels, give us the ability to, let me think of how to say this where it makes sense. So as we step into the future alignment, as your chart shows, as we step into the future alignment, it's a powerful thing that you can really connect with people that are pulling you up or pushing you up, however you want to look at it.
Right.
And that is people who encourage you, people who sometimes push you, people who sometimes are hard of you in an accountability type of way, right? You're when we go to the gym together, you push me very hard, which is awesome because it helps me get closer to my goals. And so being surrounded by people who will be honest with you, not just sing your praises, but also constantly lift you up is a game changer. The neutral, I'm not certain there really is a neutral ground. I think either people are pulling you down or pushing you up.
Good idea. So I'm just going to show this so we can rapidly go through it. This is something that I want to continue to work on. But this is the inner circle audit. So what I want you guys to do is take out a pen and paper, and I want you to simply think of the people that are currently in your life, that surround your life. And I want you to put them in one of these 3 categories. Are they misaligned in the red zone? Are they neutral and consistent? This is the yellow zone, which Andrew says does not exist. I disagree. Or are they future aligned, which is people who sharpen you? Sharpen you. So when I did this many years ago, I had probably 80% of people in the misaligned section. Every single one of those people are out of my life.
Wow. What was that like going through that transition?
For me, it was just understanding that there is a meter like this. There is something that shows us the awareness of the energy that people bring you.
Yeah.
And how important that is. When I realized that there are 3 types of environment, there is people, there's places, and there's inputs. AI made this pretty thing for me today. And each of these consist of the life that you live, right? Because the energy that you bring every single day is typically because of the people around you, what you listen to on social media, the music you listen to. And when I realized that you can audit it and you can change it, that's when I realized, hey, if my environment is my life, then I can change my life by changing my environment.
Yeah. That's very well put. And I think really taking that time to be aware for me was where it changed, because I never thought about this before. When I was in that misaligned phase, I was just like, nope, just got to grind, just got to get in the work. And I was so focused on that I didn't take time to say, wait a second, is this person aligned? I would add to the future aligned segment, they challenge you, sharpen you, believe in you, uplift you, and hold you accountable. I think that's such a powerful thing.
So make sure you guys are screenshotting this and fill it out today. But the rest of this topic is really going to go deeper into what to do once you actually fill this out. What does the red zone mean? What does the yellow zone mean? What does the green zone mean? And how do we start to find the people that we actually want in our lives? So that's the inner circle audit. The next thing I want to show you guys, and really this is kind of just a show and tell because I just made it and I feel good about it. And my mind was on this rather than building out a live show topic. This is the build a circle template. It's kind of like build a bear. But again, I remember doing this in my life when I lost all those people that were in the red zone.
Yeah.
I started to write out exactly who it was that I wanted because I created such a gap. I created such a void of people. Now I needed to fill that back up with the right people.
And it's easy in that vacuum to feel lonely and to think, well, somebody pays attention to you or wants to be your friend, to immediately just let them fill that void.
Right.
And to not be aware of the type of build a circle that you're building.
100%. So the 4, again, you can screenshot this. The 4 that I want you to focus on for the rest of this show that we go through is their mindset, their values, their character, and their energy. These are, of course, energy is the vibe that they carry into the room. How do they feel? Do you feel empowered around them or do you feel drained around them? Their mindset is, do they have a growth mindset? Do they think like you think? Do they respond the way that a mature individual would respond? The values is what they live by, and then character is integrity when no one is watching. So the main emphasis that I want you guys to take away from this is not just to watch this, but to actually, by the end of the show, have an actionable, whether it is to set a boundary with a certain person that drains you, or it is finding out exactly who it is that you want in your life and how to start attracting that. And for you, Andrew, I remember you telling me about your circle years ago.
Yeah.
And who you had before. Talk about that and this process, because it might be different, but I think it's very similar to what you did.
So I think the first thing for me was more about becoming, because I didn't understand this level of awareness. So I used to just allow whoever into my life. Like I had no filters. It was like somebody wanted to talk to me, open door. And it was a really what I call now a lacking mentality, meaning I felt just honored because I was very insecure. I just felt honored somebody was going to talk to me, right? That's how I got on the bad side of the deal on multiple deals, because I was just like, oh my goodness, somebody's talking to me, lucky me. Right. And it sounds humorous looking back, but that's how I viewed it. I think there's more people who sometimes view it that way than we think. And I would go to an event, somebody walks up to me and introduces themselves, like I felt special. And so I began to shift that. And for me, as I shifted that, it didn't make sense because wrong people were falling off. And I'm going like, what did I do? What did I say? This doesn't make sense. Like they've been my friend for years. And what it was our values no longer aligned. Our level of understanding or where we were headed didn't align. So it just didn't make sense. You know, if you're in the car with somebody and you're trying to head to Florida and they're trying to head to Arizona, like at some point there has to be a separation. And so it wasn't that they was bad. We was just heading to very different directions. And so once I became okay with that, now I begin to ask myself, like, how can I add value to this person in my life? And how can I align with them? Are we headed to the same place? Do we add value to one another? Not in a transactional way. Our brotherhood, I wouldn't consider it transactional. I would consider it a very powerful connection of brotherhood. And at the same time, when you start to understand your levels of connection in people, and sometimes we'll do a business deal with someone who might not be as deeply connected, but they have the same values, so we know we can be aligned in doing a business deal. Doesn't mean we would do a full-fledged partnership. And it comes down to understanding the levels of connection and awareness of who you're allowing into your life at each level. I describe the circle this way. There's your circle of soulmates, very small circle. Very, very few people make it into that. Those are the lifetime connections. And then there is your inner circle, which is depending on how long you've been in business or what level you've been at for a while. That could be a few people to a few dozen or even more than that. That inner circle, people you call and talk to fairly consistently. You're tight. You've got each other. And then there is the outer circle, people who are connections. You may do business deals together and various things, acquaintances. And so in those three levels, I immediately am gauging, is this someone, what level are they at?
Okay. And then what allows you to bring someone into your inner circle, from outer circle to inner circle?
Alignment. Someone who showcases their values. For me, loyalty is such a huge value. Someone who will be integrous, someone who will match our level of vision in some capacity. You know, I don't want someone in my inner circle who has a constant negative mindset. They don't have to be on the same level, I guess you would say, but they definitely have to have a mindset that is a growth mindset. So for me, it is this person aligned in values? Is this person aligned in an upward look? Is this person coachable and willing to grow? If so, then they may very well have a place in my inner circle.
Okay, this is good. I'm going off of the structure. What I would want, let's just say 10,000 people in the future, they watch this.
Yeah.
And we have 10 minutes to make sure everybody gets two things done. They understand who's in their life and who they need to remove, who they need to spend more time with, and then also who they need to have around them.
Absolutely.
What should we do in these next 10 minutes to make that happen?
First thing I ask myself is, when I'm around this person, does it help me be better? Does it pull me down? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is take an audit, take an inventory of who is around me. Who am I spending a lot of time with?
So kind of like the original audit we have here.
Exactly right.
Okay.
The second thing I ask myself is, at the next level, is this someone who could be riding with me? Right?
Yeah.
Is it somebody who has a coachability and growth mindset? Because you are where you are, right? And also at the next level, you're going to have to be surrounded by people who are willing to level up with you. So that's the first thing. And if I start to do inventory, then once I've determined who in my circle I want to choose as my 3 to 5 closest people, as my dozens of inner circle people, now I can begin to manage my time appropriately. Right? Okay. Maybe you have a family member who is negative. You say, well, I'm not going to not ever talk to them again. I get that. That's okay. They're family. Except you don't have to be with them for 9 hours a day and talk on the phone for an hour a day and see them every 2 minutes, right? You can say, hey, this is a person that I'm going to make a weekly visit to their house because I love them and care about them, but I do sense every time I'm around, my mindset gets drugged down. So now you can start to manage your time in accordance with the inventory you just took. What else goes through your mind?
So you're saying you don't have to necessarily cut someone off. You're just setting boundaries with the person.
Right.
and slowly weaning the person off. And this is something that I started with until I was able to just cut people off.
Which is
Cut
better,
and
by the
dry.
way. It just is not always easy in the early stages.
It's definitely not, especially with family,
Yeah.
right? I was in a place in my life where I was able to cut off family
Yeah.
very fast, where I just cold turkey left.
Yeah.
People who were very misaligned with my life.
Yeah.
But there were some friends that instead of hanging out with them 4 or 5 days a week, I started hanging out with them twice a week and then once a week and then never again.
Yeah.
And it sounds sad sometimes, but then when you really look at it in an energy perspective of how much they drain you, and because you get drained, how much less work you do, how much less happy you are, how much it bleeds into other great relationships, that's when it starts to get like, hey, this is something I need to do.
But let's go down that road a little bit. Like, let's say somebody's listening to this and goes, man, I can't imagine, not hanging out with that person anymore, even though they're negative and pull me down. Let's rewind. Imagine if 5 years ago, Leo, you hadn't have made those decisions.
Yeah.
And said, I'm going to start decreasing this and eventually distance from the people that are like, imagine where your mind and where you would be now, financially, mentally, physically, spiritually, geographically, every way, had of you stayed in that same place.
I think about it very often. At my last place I was living, I was around two friends, good people, however, had a very different mindset than I did. And I fell to the average of them. And I started speaking like them. I started walking like them. I started working like them. And for a whole year, you saw it when I was living with them. I couldn't break through the ceiling because your circle equals your ceiling.
Yeah.
It would be very hard for us to have the people that we're currently around and all of a sudden go way beyond and stay there, because you always fall back to the average of the people that you spend the most time around.
Always.
So when I saw that, and of course we moved out, we moved in, built an incredible place. Now it's like we go way beyond because every day we grow.
Yeah.
And now the only people that are around us, very close to us, are people that grow very fast.
Yep.
So it is very different. And you're right that if I stayed there, I would have stayed down for so many years.
Yeah. And then I think of it this way, because I think I'm a fairly kind person most of the time. And I think of people's and I go, almost feel bad that they didn't level up with me.
Yeah.
But we can't make someone level up. So I look at it this way and I think, imagine that Leo would have stayed where you were, and then you would have allowed them to drag you down. And now imagine the disservice you would have been doing to the millions of people who wouldn't be seeing your message, who now are, but wouldn't be seeing your message. And the hundreds of people who come to our events and our different things that might be getting 30% as much knowledge from you because you hadn't grown like that. And so now every time I start to make a tough decision, as myself, as you, as we level up, we bring the people around us up. Anytime someone who wasn't meant to be is no longer in our circle, rather than feeling bad for them, I realize I have to continue growing. We have to continue growing to reach the mission and the people we are meant to reach. And that doesn't mean that we discount any person. Every human is of equal human value. Okay. But that also means that you're not required to stagnate your life to help that one person who's dragging you down for the next 96 years.
Hallelujah. Okay. So then that is the idea, the mindset of auditing.
Yes.
Of seeing where people in your life land in these three. And then in each of these three, I wanted to show the bottom part, which is the actionables of what to do in each one. If somebody falls in the red zone, you simply set boundaries and you limit access. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to walk up to them and say, hey, I'm limiting access to me. You do it with the boundaries.
Right.
Right. Instead of hanging out, again, 5 days, you hang out one day and you slowly back it up. That is setting boundaries. That is limiting access. Number 2 is
By
yellow.
the way,
go ahead.
And limiting access, this was a breakthrough for me. I didn't realize that there is no law that says because someone called your cell phone, you have a moral, legal, and ethical obligation to call them back.
Right.
Did you know that somebody can ring your phone? You're not required to pick up the darn phone and call them back just because they happen to get your cell phone number and call you. When I had that, and I know it sounds humorous, when I had that breakthrough, oh my goodness, my whole life changed because now we literally choose the people who are in our life. This is really good.
Yes. So the number 2 is if somebody falls in the neutral zone. And this is somebody who you might see every couple of months or every couple of weeks, and you might just catch up. Or this is someone that maybe you have in your phone and you'll text every couple of days. Or this is someone, I guess that's about it.
Okay.
Do you know any other neutral people?
If
Honestly,
I'm texting somebody every couple days, they're in my green zone. If they're my yellow zone, they're hearing from me like.
So I honestly agree with you in the sense that it's like they're either misaligned or they're aligned.
Yeah.
This is just for the people, as we have a lot of students that say, "But which one is it?" So they could just slap her in the middle.
Slap them. Well,
Slap
but
'em in the
here's and the reason I started off and prefaced the way I did was say, if someone is dragging you down, if you are genuinely accomplishing less and getting, there's some people I've been around in my life, and you just literally feel your brain begin to like shrink when you're around them. You ever been around those people?
I have.
And you're like, you get brain claustrophobia. And when someone is in that category, they're not neutral. They're dragging you down. And when someone is in the green zone, they're encouraging you, lifting you up, holding you accountable. They're being a blessing in some way. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily someone that you talk, you can only talk to so many people a day. Doesn't mean that they have to be someone you talk to daily, but they can be in that zone of, there's people who I talk to monthly who lift me up.
Yeah. So then in the green zone, this is your place to invest time with them and deepen your connection. So now that we have that audit, we've spent enough time there. And of course, you guys know me and Andrew, as we build things out, this is how we learn and this is how we continue to get better at teaching. Something that I want you guys to do as you guys are doing more teaching and you guys are making more content, use a space like this to be able to learn them, right? I made this morning, and this is why we're kind of looping around. But the next piece I want you guys to really lock in, again, is this template right here. I want you guys to write down, or while we're here on live, think about the person that you want to be around and start to create them in your mind, where you might not attract the exact same person, but all you're doing is creating a filter for what you're willing to put up with and what you're willing to accept into your life. For example, if you have a set of values of growth, of integrity, of love, and the person does not live by those values, you can simply tell yourself that this person won't be in my inner circle.
Right.
And definitely not as you said, a soulmate.
Yeah.
And you're going to meet, I guess I should look at you. You're going to meet thousands of people over the next 2-3 years. You might as well have a great filter for, out of those thousands of people, who's going to fall in, who you're going to accept, who you're going to latch on to and add energy to. And something as simple as this can change your entire life over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I think something that was a big game changer for me, because I always want people to feel special. I always want people to know they are loved, right? Even if they're in the red zone, like I want them to have a good life. And being able to not dismiss somebody's humanity, and this was a big pet peeve of mine, because I've seen people, we do events, we sell stuff, and of course, people of wealth buy access. So there's people who join our mastermind community, apply to be a part, and those who are accepted in, invest in themselves, and we're closer to. We do more business with. It's just the way business works. It's the way life works. But something I always wanted was the people who weren't in a position or weren't in the mindset or weren't able to be there yet for whatever reason. I always wanted them to feel their humanity. Yes, to maybe be accountable. Yes, to be inspired. I remember what it's like sitting in an event when I was broke and coming up with money to put a down payment on a $34,000 program. And it was everything I had and then some. It was credit cards. It was calling family. Like, it was everything. Yet I seen some people at other places and other times who, if someone wasn't in a position to buy their thing, immediately they would dehumanize them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that always saddened me, because I want people who are in the red zone to have a good life. And my prayer always is that everyone I interact with leaves better. Although I may meet 27 people at a event, at a meetup, and we may only stay connected with 7 of those people, I want the other 20 to have had a interaction that inspired them in some way, right? And so looking at it in that way says, okay, I'm going to make sure everyone has a better, you're really good at this. You make everyone you meet have a positive experience. I think that's a powerful thing. I see you do that when we travel internationally. And so when people leave, and I share this because when they're in the red zone, it doesn't mean you have to guilt them and make them feel like crap. It just means that, hey, we're not aligned. How can 2 walk together unless they're in alignment, right? So we're not aligned, but I wish and pray for the best for them. And my desire and prayer is everywhere I go, I'm putting out good things. And sometimes somebody in the red zone, my prayer is, and I've seen it happen over times, they're in the red zone, and one day they've seen a video, one day they come to one of our events, and something clicked in their mind, and they changed from the red zone to the green zone. So know that can happen, and that's part of what we build and grow together in community. And at the same time, the ones who choose to stay in the red zone, they'll just have a different life, not as close to you.
I like that. I think as leaders, that's what it is. We never shun people.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say this instead, that we lead people into the right direction, and
Yes.
sometimes from a distance, and sometimes spending less time with someone, it is a message and it is leadership, and you continue growing yourself. And as you continue to grow, as you continue to shine your light very bright and you never dim it, the other person is looking at you. If they continue to look at you in a certain way, whether it's on social media or from a distance, they get to simply you get to be a mirror for them.
Yeah.
And they look at themselves and they say, okay, maybe I need to realign. Maybe I need to work harder.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to change my life.
Yeah.
Because you have grown so much. You have grown so much to the point where you now cannot hang with a lot of people that you used to hang with. Right. Because they stay at a certain place where maybe they all eat a certain food and maybe they all think a certain way. Maybe they, in my life, a lot of people from my school continue to smoke, continue to party, continue to do these things. I don't do any of those things and haven't in years. So why would I hang around that?
Yeah.
And it's just a different level of habits, but typically your habits are based on your identity.
Yep.
So there's consequences to growth.
Yeah.
But what Andrew,
Wow,
you were
that's
saying
powerful.
is that leadership is simply saying, hey, I know if I grow, the people in the green section are going to grow with me.
Yeah.
And I will move further away from the red zone from those people, but that's okay.
Yeah. That's
So-
a powerful thing.
I think that's all I had.
That's good. I think that as you hear this, my prayer would be that there's some light bulbs going off, because sometimes, especially, when it comes to family, when it comes to people you've grown up around, when it comes to people you've known in your life, that is the very thing that keeps many people from ever breaking through the dam.
Yes.
It keeps many people from ever getting to the other side of their dreams, of their purpose, of where they're headed, of where they want to go, is because the conversations are different. I enjoy politics. I enjoy keeping up with politics. But if I go to a family get together and all we do for 4 hours is talk about politics, like, I am so out. Why? Because it's not my life. Yeah, I want to keep up with what's going on in the news, but it's not my life. My life is the people that I'm surrounded by. My life is the community that we've built. My life is the businesses we run. My life is the family. My life is those things that are more important to me, the travel we do. And would much rather hear people and their stories than I would talk about personal preference, sports, football games, and politics or other things, even though I might enjoy hearing those things or keeping up on those things. And I say that because the level of conversation is just different. We get together sometimes with some of the masterminds we're a part of, and we're discussing ideas in life. We're not discussing the lower level things that were discussed nonstop. And I remember some friends I used to go to dinner with quite often, very often actually, years ago. And for a period of about 7 years, we went to dinner a lot. And I remember the last 2 years of going to dinner a lot, like the conversations became almost awkward because we had so little in common, because I had been growing and they had stayed the same. And so when you start to become aware of those things, don't think you're weird. Don't think you're out of place. Just realize you're growing. You're being called to level up, and it's part of the process.
1,000%. So last thing to touch on before we wrap up is praying for those people. And it just reminded me because, when I was in that space of not having anyone, the only thing I could do was pray. And my prayers looked different at the time, but they were still prayers, where nowadays we're sitting in the prayer of great people around us.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to ask God to send you the right people. And
Wow.
it's so much easier when you go through an audit first and then you define who it is that you want, so you can ask God for that. And it is just incredibly vital. You sit in silence, you think about the person that you want, the people that you want, and you just ask for that continuously. And then when you go out there and you meet people, you also just have a filter. And that becomes just the thing. It's like you change your life by changing the people that you're surrounded by. And sometimes you have to go through a lonely period. So ask God for people.
And they'll show up, the right ones at the right time. I asked myself for several years, I remember looking in the mirror, and I literally had this conversation when I felt at my lowest, and I would say, like, why? Why does this happen? Like, why am I attracting people that are not in alignment with what I'm trying to head? And what I realized was I was not in alignment with where I was wanting to head. That's why I was not attracting the right people.
It's a whole nother topic.
Yes, it is. So for each of you, pray for the right people to show up in your life, and practice every day at becoming the person who can attract those people.
Absolutely. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll be a little bit more refreshed since Friday we have just a little bit less meetings. But thank you guys for being here, and we hope that you guys continue to grow, continue to show up for yourself and for each other.
Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.
Peace. Bye-bye.